Imagine drowning. Not the Hollywood version. The real thing. Saltwater flooding your sinuses, your lungs trying to expel what's already inside, the pressure in your chest building until you think your ribs will crack. The surface is maybe 10 feet above you, but it might as well be a mile. Your arms don't work anymore. The cold's already shutting your body down. Now imagine that's not the worst part. The worst part is the shadow. Mediterranean Sea. 850 BC. The storm's been tearing the ship apart for hours. Sailors throwing cargo overboard, anything to stay afloat. They've prayed to every god they know. Nothing's working. And there's a passenger on board who knows exactly why. His name is Jonah. And he just told them the storm won't stop until they throw him into the sea. Think about that. You're on a ship that's coming apart in the dark, and some stranger tells you he's the problem. That his God is hunting him. That the only way you survive is if you drown him. They don't want to do it. The text is explicit. They try rowing harder. They try everything else first. But the storm gets worse. The ship's breaking. People are dying. So they grab him, this prophet who won't do his job, and they throw him overboard. And the storm stops. Instantly. Now Jonah's sinking. The cold hits first Mediterranean water in storm season, cold enough to stop your heart in minutes. His lungs are burning. He's trying to hold his breath, but the impact knocked half of it out. He's going down, not up. And that's when he sees it. Something massive. Moving with impossible speed for its size. Not hunting * approaching star. Deliberate. The text calls it a Dag Gadol. The great fish. Not a whale. Not a shark. Just great. Big enough that the word doesn't do it justice. Jonah probably tries to swim. Probably tries to scream underwater, which just makes him lose air faster. But it doesn't matter. The thing's already there. The mouth opens, not teeth, just a vast black opening, and the current pulls him in. No chewing. No crushing. Just darkness. And pressure. And the horrible realization that drowning might have been the better option. Because the text says he was in there for 3 days and 3 nights. 72 hours. No oxygen supply. No light. Nothing but the biological interior of something that shouldn't be able to keep a human alive. But here's what they don't tell you. Present day. Jordan Valley. An archaeological team is excavating ancient Nineveh. They're looking for evidence of the Assyrian Empire. Instead, they find something else. Clay tablets. Thousands of them. Administrative records from 750 BC. And buried in the mundane accounting, grain shipments, tax records, labor logs, they find a reference. A single line. The prophet with no skin color who spoke 8 words. The researchers don't understand it. Why would a pagan empire record a Hebrew prophet? Why would they remember him a century later? Why describe him as bleached? Because when Jonah walked onto that beach 3 days later, something about him was fundamentally wrong, ***. And it wasn't just his appearance. It's what 72 hours in the abyss does to the human body and the human soul that made an empire fall to its knees. Present day. Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, Massachusetts, ***. Dr. Sarah Chen is a marine biologist who specializes in deep-sea predators. She spent the last decade studying sperm whales. When we asked her if a human could survive inside one, she didn't laugh. She got very quiet. Theoretically, she says, there's one species that could do it. But you'd have to change the variables. Let's talk about the Dag Gadol. For centuries, people assumed it was a whale. Sunday school flannel boards show a cute blue whale with Jonah sitting comfortably in its stomach. But that's not what the text says. It says dag fish. And it says Gadol, great, massive, prepared. Prepared. That word changes everything. Here's the problem with most whales. Their throats are too small. A blue whale, biggest animal on Earth, has a throat about the diameter of a dinner plate. You're not fitting through that. But there's one that's different. The sperm whale. Physeter macrocephalus, the largest toothed predator on the planet. Males can hit 60 feet long and weigh 50 tons. And unlike other whales, their throats are massive, big enough to swallow giant squid whole. Big enough, theoretically, for a human. They dive deeper than any other mammal. Over 6,000 feet. They can hold their breath for 90 minutes. They navigate by echolocation in total darkness, hunting in the abyss where the pressure would crush a submarine. These animals are built for extremes, Dr. Chen explains. Their bodies can handle what would kill us instantly. The question isn't whether a human could fit inside. The question is whether they could survive. 850 BC. Somewhere beneath the Mediterranean, ***. Jonah's been swallowed. The darkness is absolute. The walls, if you can call them that, are muscle, contracting and releasing. He can't see. Can't tell which way is up. Everything smells wrong. And he's starting to panic. Cut to present day. Historical Archives, Edinburgh, ***. In 1891, a whaling ship called the Star of the East was processing a sperm whale off the Falkland Islands. When they opened the stomach, they found something impossible. A crew member. James Bartley. Alive. Dr. Ambrose John Wilson investigated the case. His report, disputed by skeptics, defended by others, described Bartley as unconscious, his skin bleached white by gastric fluids. But breathing. Traumatized. Alive. 15 hours inside. If Bartley survived 15 hours, Dr. Chen says slowly, what would it take for 72? She pauses. Looks at the anatomical model. You'd need the environment modified. The acidity lowered. Air pockets. Regular surfacing for oxygen exchange. Another pause. You'd need the whale, prepared. Cut to 850 BC. Inside the fish, ***. Jonah's throat is raw from screaming into the dark. His hands are cramped from trying to find a way out that doesn't exist. Day 1, panic. Day 2, exhaustion. Day 3. Something breaks. Not his body. His will. And that's when the text says he started to pray. But what he prayed and how it traveled 1,500 miles to reach a temple on dry land is where the biology ends and something else begins. Something that makes scientists very uncomfortable. Present day. Neuroscience Laboratory, Stanford University. Dr. Marcus Webb studies sensory deprivation. He's run experiments on what happens to the human brain when you remove all external stimuli. 72 hours of total isolation, he says. You're not the same person when you come out. The first symptoms appear after 6 hours. Mild hallucinations. Time distortion. By 24 hours, subjects lose spatial awareness. They can't tell if their eyes are open or closed. By 48 hours, the personality starts to fracture. It's not madness, Dr. Webb explains. It's ego death. Everything you used to define yourself, sight, sound, your body and space, it's gone. What's left is just core consciousness. And most people can't handle that. 850 BC. Inside the fish. Hour 48. Jonah stopped moving. His body shutting down non-essential functions to conserve energy. He's been carried through the ocean at 15 miles per hour with no control. Every time the whale dives, his ears scream. Every time it surfaces, he gets a breath of air mixed with salt spray, and he doesn't know if it'll be the last one. The whale's hunting. Deep. Down to the abyssal seafloor where underwater mountains rise from the dark. Jonah's prayer mentions it. The roots of the mountains. The bars of the earth closing around me forever. He's describing geological features no surface-dwelling human in 850 BC should know exist. Present day. Mediterranean Deep-Sea Research Station. Marine geologists have mapped the seafloor. There are underwater mountain ranges in the Mediterranean. Massive ones. The whale would have dived there to hunt. And Jonah would have been inside, experiencing pressure differentials that should have killed him. But the whale's body was equalizing the pressure. The whale was breathing. Somehow, through the esophagus, through some mechanism we don't fully understand, there was enough air to keep Jonah conscious. Not comfortable. Not safe. Just not dead yet. 850 BC. Inside the fish. Hour 60. In that silence, that absolute, crushing silence, Jonah hears something. Not a voice. Not a sound. Just clarity. The kind you only get when everything else is stripped away. He remembers why he's here. That he ran. That he bought passage on a ship heading the opposite direction from where God told him to go. That he'd rather drown than preach to Nineveh. Nineveh. The city Jonah hates more than dying. The capital of Assyria, the empire that's been destroying Israel for decades. The people who flay captives alive and stack skulls as warnings. God wanted Jonah to warn them of judgment. And Jonah said no. Not because he's a coward. Because he knows what'll happen. He knows that if Nineveh repents, God will forgive them. And Jonah doesn't want them forgiven. He wants them destroyed. So he ran. Now he's in the belly of a fish at the bottom of the ocean, and he's got 3 days to sit with the consequences of that choice. Somewhere around hour 68, something in him surrenders. And he prays. But it's not the prayer you'd expect. It's the prayer of a dead man. And what happened when he spoke those words is why the Assyrians wrote it down. The prayer in Jonah chapter 2 is one of the strangest passages in Scripture. From the belly of Sheol I cried. Sheol. The grave. The pit. The place of the dead. He's not speaking metaphorically. According to the text, he's describing where he is. Present day. Theological Seminary, Jerusalem. Rabbi David Kessler has studied this passage for 30 years. He teaches ancient Hebrew. The verb tense is wrong, he says, pointing to the text. Jonah says, "You brought my life up from the pit." Past tense. Like it already happened. But he's still inside the fish. That's not a prayer of desperation. That's a prayer of surrender. Of someone who stopped fighting. Who let go of the outcome and just trusted. Even though nothing about his situation had changed. 850 BC. Inside the fish. Hour 70. The text says Jonah's prayer reached the temple. Not the ruins of a temple. The holy temple. The dwelling place of God. Which means a cry from the bottom of the Mediterranean traveled 1,500 miles and pierced the veil between the physical and the eternal. That's not physics. Present day. Quantum Physics Institute, Geneva. Dr. Elena Volkov studies non-local phenomena. Quantum entanglement. The observer effect. There are things we're discovering about consciousness that don't fit inside classical physics, she says carefully. The idea that intention, focused, desperate intention, could have measurable effects across distance? 10 years ago I would have said impossible. Now, she trails off. Now we know quantum states can be entangled across any distance. Information transfers instantaneously. If consciousness operates on quantum principles, and there's growing evidence it might, then prayer isn't just wishful thinking. It's a transmission. 850 BC. Inside the fish. Hour 72. The moment Jonah surrenders, something changes. God doesn't speak to Jonah. He speaks to the fish. And the fish obeys. Present day. Deep sea biology research, Tokyo. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka studies whale behavior. Migration patterns. Communication. Whales respond to stimuli we don't understand, he says. They beach themselves with no apparent cause. They alter migration routes suddenly. They've been observed protecting humans from sharks. He shows us footage. A humpback whale shielding a diver from a tiger shark. Lifting the diver onto its back. We call it altruistic behavior, he says. But we don't know why it happens. It's like they're responding to something we can't detect. Cut to 850 BC. Mediterranean coastline. Dawn. The whale beaches itself. Partially. Just enough. And it expels a human body onto the shore like it's purging something toxic. Not gently. Vomited. And when Jonah stands up, when he finally walks toward Nineveh, what the Assyrians saw made them write it down, asterisk asterisk. Made them remember it for centuries. Because something about him was fundamentally, irreversibly wrong. Present day. Medical Forensics Lab, London. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo specializes in exposure trauma. Chemical burns. Acid damage. We show her the description from the ancient tablets. The Bleached One. The prophet with no skin color. 3 days of exposure to gastric fluid, she says slowly. Even diluted, even with protective mucus, the outer layer of skin would be chemically altered. Melanin destroyed. You'd be pale. Unnaturally pale. And the smell. She pauses. Stomach enzymes. Bile. Salt. It would permeate everything. Clothing. Hair. Skin. You wouldn't be able to wash it out. Not completely. You'd smell like death. 850 BC. Somewhere on the Mediterranean coast. Jonah's lying on the beach. He's breathing, but barely. His skin's wrung too pale, chemically bleached by 3 days of exposure. His hair's matted with seaweed and things he doesn't have names for. He can't stand yet. Can barely move. But he's alive. The sailors who threw him overboard would have never believed it. They probably said prayers for him. Maybe felt guilty. Now he's on a beach, staring up at the sky like he's seeing it for the first time. And in the distance, maybe a few days' walk inland, there's a city. Nineveh. He could still run. The beach stretches in both directions. But something's changed. Not in the city. In him. He gets up. Slowly. His legs shake. But he gets up. And he starts walking. Cut to present day. Archaeological site, Mosul, Iraq. The ruins of Nineveh. One of the largest cities in the ancient world. Archaeologists have excavated the palace. The walls. The administrative buildings. The city was massive. An exceedingly great city, a 3 days walk across, the text says. That's not exaggeration. The archaeological evidence confirms it. Walls 8 miles around. Population estimated at 120,000 or more. Military power that made empires tremble. And Jonah walked through the gates alone. Cut to 850 BC. Nineveh. Main gate. One day. 8 words in Hebrew. 40 days and Nineveh will be destroyed. That's it. No sermon. No signs. No proof. Just 8 words from a man who smells like death and the sea. And the entire city, from the king to the lowest slave, falls to their knees. Why? Present day. Clinical Psychology Department, Yale. Dr. Raymond Torres studies authenticity markers. How humans detect truth. We're pattern recognition machines, he says. We can tell when someone's lying. But we can also tell when someone's been through something impossible. There are markers. Micro-expressions. Body language. Scent, even. We process it subconsciously. He pauses. If someone walks into a room and your brain screams, "This person has been dead," you believe them. Cut to 850 BC. Nineveh. The next day. The city's in sackcloth. Fasting. Crying out to God. And God relents. Which is exactly what Jonah was afraid of. Present day. The ancient tablets again. The Assyrian records don't mention the fish. They wouldn't. But they mention the prophet. They mention the warning. They mention that the city repented. And then one line, almost buried, they mention what happened after. The Bleached One went east and sat beneath a dead tree, waiting for the fire that never came. Because Jonah wanted justice. God wanted mercy. And the fish was the place where Jonah had to choose which one mattered more. But here's what keeps me up at night. Jonah chose mercy. And he hated himself for it. Present day. Deep ocean. Research submersible. We're descending. 2,000 feet. Then 4,000. Then 6. This is where sperm whales hunt. This is the world Jonah saw. Dr. Chen is with us. She's quiet. Finally, she speaks. If the Bartley account is even partially true, if a human survived 15 hours, then 72 hours would require the environment to be modified. Deliberately. She looks out at the dark. The whale would have to be prepared. That word again. Prepared. The Hebrew word is mana. To assign. To arrange. To make ready. Not a random fish. A specific one. Prepared for this exact moment. Cut to archaeological lab. The tablets spread out. The evidence is incomplete. But it's there. A prophet who ran. A storm that stopped the moment he hit the water. A city that repented after hearing 8 words from a man who looked like death. And Assyrian records that mention him a century later. Present day. Open ocean. Sunset. Somewhere beneath us, sperm whales are hunting. Diving to depths that would kill us. Navigating by sound in absolute darkness. The Dag Gadol is still out there. Maybe the same one. Maybe its descendants. Maybe it only existed for 72 hours and then returned to the blueprint from which it came. But the warning it carried? That's still moving. Still hunting. Still swallowing people who think they can run. Here's what the story doesn't tell you. Jonah survived. The city was spared. God was merciful. And Jonah spent the rest of his life angry about it. The book ends with him under a dead tree, furious that Nineveh still stands. Furious that the people he wanted destroyed were forgiven. The Bible doesn't tell us if Jonah ever made peace with that. It just ends. Mid-argument. God asking Jonah a question. And Jonah, silent. Cut to present day. You. Watching this. You're sitting there thinking about Jonah. About the fish. About whether it's physically possible. But what if that's the wrong question? What if the question isn't whether Jonah survived the fish? What if the question is, what are you running from? Not physically. Not geographically. What voice have you been ignoring because you don't like where it's telling you to go? What storm are you about to bring down on everyone around you because you'd rather drown than obey? And here's the terrifying part. The fish doesn't care if you believe in it. It's already moving. Jonah got 3 days in the dark to decide. You might not get 3 hours. So the question isn't whether the story's true. The question is whether you'll recognize the shadow when it comes. And whether you'd rather face the fish. Or face what you've been running from. Because one of them is going to swallow you whole. And only one of them will spit you back out.